Editorial reviews. Some authors swear by them, others think they're a complete waste of time. Look, I've tried a few, and today I'm going to share the ones that I've used and that I actually recommend. So, what are editorial reviews? That's the first question, right? They're not the same as reader reviews, okay? Not the same as customer reviews. Now, Kindlepreneur did a little review to check what impacts editorial reviews have from a perspective of the reader or the person who's scrolling. So if you're like looking to buy a book and you're like, okay, I've landed on this page. Anyway, they did like quite a nice study. Okay, so over here, well, just look at the picture. Okay, look at the picture. It shows you where the heat map is. So this is where people stopped. Okay, the reviews influenced shoppers by a noticeable rate. So it's not like, it's just random stuff. It was actually materially impacted by, I mean, the shoppers were influenced, they were materially impacted by the editorial reviews that they saw. I'm going to leave a link to this, so don't worry about like, anything. But basically, yeah, let's look at the heat map over here. They did the experiments. And they were generating. So they use computers to track eye movement. Okay, so it's kind of sophisticated. It sounds like some spy stuff, really. They tracked the eye movements and they looked at where people stopped and where people looked at the most. So they looked at here, they looked at here. So if you look like beyond the heat map, so there's the review. There's the review itself. Okay, and then they stopped over here, Wall Street Journal. They looked at, you know, BenjaminHardyInc.com, the Oprah magazine. So you got to squint a little bit. But basically, yeah, they did stop at the editorial review section, and they looked at specifically who were writing them. They obviously, looked obviously about the actual review, but most of the emphasis was who wrote the review and the editorial review itself. Okay, so I'm gonna leave a link, but like my view is, editorial reviews, they certainly can't hurt. You know what I mean? Like obviously, the heat map will tell you that it stops the scroll. That's really important. You got to stop the scroll for people to even be vested and interested in buying a book. So it can't hurt, is my view. I just want to point out, in a perfect world, right? You have the niche that you're in, you have the influencers or blogs or websites or whatever. Those are the people who are, really influential, really well known, okay, in that niche, in your genre, and those people are writing the editorial reviews, for you, right? That's the perfect world. The reality is, it's not easy for self-published authors to get this. That's the reality of it. Okay, like most self-published authors are not going to land the Oprah sort of editorial review statement. Okay, they're not going to land like the James Patterson, or whatever, right? Whoever's famous, but that doesn't mean, in my view, it doesn't mean editorial reviews are completely useless. It just means maybe there's maybe less effect. Okay, but it's one of those things you don't know till you try, right? I will definitely say it will stop the scroll. It will stop my scroll. I will stop scrolling to read the reviews. I will obviously see who wrote the reviews. If it's not someone famous, it probably has a bit less effect. Okay, so I just want to get that out of the way. So it may not work. Okay, but if it does, what's it to hurt? It wouldn't hurt. If you try it and it does work, well done. If you try it, it doesn't work, well, that's just how life is. That's just business sometimes. So anyway, I'll tell you what doesn't work for me. Okay, things like big names like Kirkus reviews. I wouldn't personally use it. I wouldn't recommend it myself, because it's so expensive, right? And I've used alternatives, which are all ally approved, so Alliance of Independent Authors. They've been through the checks. So yeah, let me just get right into them. It's only a few, so let's just jump right in. All right, now before you do anything, obviously, like this is my due diligence. Just make sure you check, okay, whatever you're gonna use. Goes without saying, try and use like the free methods. So if you know someone within your network, feel free to like reach out to them. It's difficult if you're just a cold outreach, but if you have a relationship, that might work. Anyway, so definitely try the free stuff like bloggers or influencers and see if they'll do it for free. Some people might. if you give them a copy of your book. You never know, but you also don't want to come off as a pest. Anyway, let's do the first one, which is Reezy. So we're going to do our checks as I go through. So Reezy, and this is Reezy Discovery. That's the one I've used. So Reezy Discovery over here. Now this one does have like a time limit, so you need to launch it. I can't remember how much time you need to give them, but yeah, okay. So you submit your book to our reviewers for $50 and gain exposure to their readers, and hopefully someone will leave you a review, editorial review. So let me see submission guidelines. Okay, let's have a little read. Okay, there we go. 6 months, no more than 6 months. Okay, so number one is no more than 6 months. They obviously reserve the right to reject submissions that don't follow guidelines, and there's stuff that they don't do. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, this is the first one I would recommend. Reezy Discovery. That's always on my list of editorial reviews to hit up. Okay, the next one I've got is under the book award and contest ratings for the due diligence. So it's not quite an award that we're looking for, but it's a reader's favorite. So this one comes in at mixed, and you can see mixed as like contests. So we're not really concerned with the contest, but it kind of reflects on the company itself. So it's one of these like it's up to you. Like for me, I would do it, and I'll show you why. So here we go. This is the reader's favorite book review and award contest. So this is for editorial reviews. Now you can enter the book award if you want. It's up to you. Now the one we're looking for is a free or express review. Okay, and this is the one that I would use for editorial reviews. And you can request a free review of your book. So feel free to use the free. Like I don't see a problem with using free. Best F word ever, right? So yeah, that is the next one. You can, of course, pay to get your book reviewed faster if you would like. You don't have to, but yeah, you can see like a lot of big companies and big names, prominent names, have come up. So that's why I would recommend them. So you can pay extra. So if you want one review or whatever it is, 3 or 5 editorial reviews, feel free to use it and check out their website. But again, it's mixed by ally, but that is for the contest, the awards section. So just keep that in mind. It's not like an exact one-to-one comparison here. But again, like I say, if you don't want to pay for this, don't. Use the free one. Use the free one. Now, there's no guarantee you're gonna get your books reviewed though. That's the only thing, because it's free. If you do pay, then they will do it. And then you can decide how many express reviews you want. But yeah, reader's favorite comes in. I would recommend at least looking at them and at least trying for the free editorial review. And up next is the wishing shelf. So you can check both. Make sure you check both actually. So this is the services rated, and then also check the awards, because sometimes one will appear on one or the other. So this with the wishing shelf, this is the one I really like them. They are very supportive of indie authors. They're literally supporting independent author publishing everywhere. So they're very supportive of indie authors. One of the things I really love about these guys is they're very transparent. So they send emails updating people, myself, on what's going on. So like if you're participating in an award, they'll say where they are and that kind of thing, give you updates basically, right, and how things are running. This is an editorial review bit, so I'm not going to go into the awards section, but editorial reviews, they do this for £89 currently. I mentioned Kirkus earlier. It's just too expensive for me. I'm not willing to part with that kind of cash. Anyway, they do it for £89, and I've had like a few done for these, and they actually have people who will read the book, and they are very in depth, very detailed, and they literally tell you who the reviewers will probably be. editors, authors, teachers, PhDs, and business semester. So that's what you're gonna get. If you have any questions, like if your genre is like really kind of far out there, and you're not sure if they can cover this, just email them. Just literally email them before you send the book over, and before you make payment. So these guys, I will absolutely use every single time when I've got a book out, and green lit, green, green on the legend over here, by Ally. So I'm not saying it's going to be the best review you're going to get. It's going to be an honest review. I would expect honest editorial review. But for the price, I'm okay with it, and I've always been very happy with The Wishing Shelf. So that is number 3, The Wishing Shelf, and this is the last one we're going to cover, and it is ebook fairs. They back when I did it, very budget friendly, okay, and excellent partner level with Ally. Again, very supportive of indie authors. I've I found that personally anyway. People I've interacted with have also found that as well. So you can have a look at book fairs, which is kind of like an online marketing. So you invite people, you give away things, and they got pictorial things that you can check out. Anyway, you can look for this one, which is professional book review service, editorial reviews, review service as low as $15 per review, $15. As I say, very, very, very budget friendly in my opinion. So I would say it's reasonable that they add this. We cannot and do not guarantee a positive review, which is fair enough. You're getting an editorial review. So yeah, they tell you exactly what you're going to get, and yeah, I think this one I would definitely put as part of my launch sequence. Ebook fairs editorial review. If you remember, it's just worth having editorial reviews. In my opinion, depending on your budget and the cost and everything, if you can afford it, I will probably do it. Like me personally, I would do it, and I will find a budget for it. I'll I will save up or whatever just to do a few editorial reviews. Especially when you're launching a book, you don't know if and when customer reviews will come through, and also customer reviews. Yeah, look, the customer is not always right. Okay, I hate to say this, but the customer is not always right. And one of the reasons I say that is because editorial reviews presumably are read by people who are in your genre, in your niche, or at least they're knowledgeable about what's happening in your niche. Customers could be knowledgeable, but they could be they may not be, right. They may be dimwits, but they may also be very knowledgeable. So the reviews that you get from customers can vary widely, whereas the reviews that you're going to get from editorial reviews, I would expect fully that they are read by people who are definitely in that genre, right? So yeah. Anyway, number 4 is ebook fairs. Give them a try. Editorial reviews, very, very budget friendly. So those are my favorite editorial review companies that I would use, and I would recommend. I've used them before. I'm comfortable using them going forwards. So why would you, just a quick recap, why would you use editorial reviews at all? It's because it stops the scroll on Amazon, and that is really important. You stop the scroll, you get people's attention, all right? And just a reminder, it's not going to guarantee sales, but in my opinion, it doesn't hurt. So I'd rather have editorial reviews on my books rather than not have it. So it's kind of like a bonus. So it's like a budget permitting kind of thing. And as I mentioned earlier, make sure you use the free options as well. So for example, Reader's Favorite has a free option. Ask bloggers, influencers in your niche and genre. There's no harm in reaching out, especially if you have a connection with them. If not, build that network first. Don't just cold call people and say, hey, do a review, editorial review now. That's not going to fly, okay? Anyway, speaking of customer reviews, which I mentioned earlier, if you want to get honest reader reviews, okay, check out this playlist right here. Until next time, subscribe. I'll see you there.